Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. This is the very first live stream of the Free Web Development Bootcamp. If you haven't already, this is a really, really fantastic time to go ahead and go. So, open another browser. You're probably watching us on either Twitch or YouTube live if you're viewing us live. Hello. If you're not catching us live, you're going to be watching the video. Either way, please head to freecodecamp.org. And if you haven't already, sign up for an account. So all of the work we're going to be doing through this boot camp all comes from this curriculum. And we're going to be working through that together. Cool. We're going to give folks just a moment to get signed on and to get settled. If you are a super high achiever, you're like, oh, hey, Jess, I'm already here. I'm already signed on to Free Code Camp. This is fantastic. We're going to get started working together. Let's go ahead and also grab some water or grab some coffee if you like. Yeah, we're going to get started in just a second. If those of you joining us are maybe coming to us from Twitch or from YouTube and you haven't signed up for the free boot camp yet, you're super welcome to. There's no obligation to. But I'll go ahead and ask my beautiful assistant, my beautiful co-host, Manuel, if you could go ahead and drop the link to the bootcamp sign up in the chat for folks. I'd appreciate that. So, how scary. Shall we get started? Um, as you as you can hopefully see here, where is my fragile human brain taking me? Oh, let me find this window. You all are excruciatingly patient for being this early in the morning, aren't you? So we're signed into freecodecamp.org. And what we're going to be starting on is the responsive web design certification. Let's take a look at what we're going to be learning together. In this certification, we're going to learn the languages that developers use to build web pages. HTML is a hypertext markup language for content, and CSS, cascading style sheets for design. Those are the two languages we're going to be learning together throughout this course. There's some debate about, is HTML a programming language? Or, is CSS a programming language? And I could absolutely waste your time joining in that argument. I'd say that I think they count as programming languages. CSS is Turing complete, which is one of the common arguments for what is and isn't a programming language. More importantly, I noticed that when folks want to tell you that what you're working on isn't a programming language, they're often being jerks. So you can make your own decision about whether or not HTML is a programming language or whether or not CSS counts as a programming language. But if somebody else comes and tells you, hey, the work you're doing isn't real programming, I wouldn't be too worried about what those people think. I'm ready to go ahead and discount their opinions a little bit. So you're settled in, you're logged into freecodecamp.com, you've got some water or some coffee, you're comfortable, you're as comfortable as you can get. Let's go ahead and get started. So we're not just going to learn HTML and CSS. We're going to do that by building a cat photo app together. And we're going to learn some other things as well. So here's what we're going to be starting on this week is basic HTML and HTML5. And we're going to look at this in just a second because I want to show off what we're going to be learning throughout this course. We're going to be doing basic HTML and HTML5. We're going to be learning some basic CSS. We're going to be putting those together for some applied visual design. So looking at color theory, looking at typography, making CSS and making HTML a little bit prettier, a little bit more communicative for the people who visit our websites. We're going to learn a little bit about accessibility. And accessibility, I think, is so important. This is making sure that the websites we're going to be building together are things that a range of different users are actually able to access. Then together, we're going to learn about responsive web design principles. And some of you might be experiencing some responsive web design stuff right now. So if you're viewing this from a great big giant monitor, how exciting, good for you. you're going to be having a different experience on screen than somebody who's joining this course from a phone. And responsive web design is what lets YouTube, in this case, or maybe Twitch in this case, deliver these experiences in ways that make sense, the ways that display appropriately from both. The last things we're going to learn in this course are some CSS concepts. So CSS Flexbox is this method of laying out CSS. And I confess I'm rubbish at it. So we're going to learn together. And then we're going to learn about CSS Grid together, which is a newer standard that lets you make really fancy, really pretty, fancy is not a technical term, really fancy, really pretty layouts. And the scariest thing is when we come to the end of this boot camp, you all are going to have to do these projects by yourself. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to learn the core of what we're going to be working on together. But then you can start these anytime, but we're going to ask you to build a tribute page on your own. We're going to ask you to build a survey form and a landing page and a documentation page. And I confess I'm the most excited about this, your personal portfolio page. We're going to ask you to do these on your own. At the end of all of this, FreeCodeCamp is going to give you a certification saying, hello, your name. I'm so sorry. There's a bunch of you. I can't list all your names. Hey, your name. Here's your certification certifying that you can make cool, responsive web designs. I'm going to zip us all the way up to the top. How dizzying. And we're going to take a look at what we're going to be learning together today. Oh, gosh, I should add, if this is the middle of the night for you, go back to bed. Go back to bed. We're going to be covering this exact same material tomorrow live if you want to join us at a different time. But also all of these videos are going to be available offline afterwards. So never feel like you need to make every single one of these and never feel like you're missing anything if you miss a lesson right here. The big thing is that we're looking to add some extra supports. We're looking to add some extra, these live streams, these forums are just to try and make this more valuable for you all and add more support. Oh, heck, sorry about that. I'm just clicking y'all's comments and saying hi. Tons of you are saying hello, and it's absolutely delightful. While y'all say, Dennis, you say it's 1 a.m. in California. You go back to bed right now. We're going to do this tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. California, which is still brutal, but possibly a little bit less horrific than 1 in the morning, talking to y'all like I'm your mother trying to send you to bed. Shall we get started? Are we excited? We're going to say hello to the HTML elements. So hello, we're seeing a hello right here up in the top corner. And let's talk about what's going on our screen. If you look over on this side, we're seeing some instructions. So it's telling us what to do. And it's saying, hey, welcome to FreeCodeCamp. Like, oh, thanks, FreeCodeCamp. First, we're going to start by building a simple web page using HTML. And we can edit code in our code editor, which is this middle bit we're seeing here. Our code editor is this stuff. And I think we want to go ahead and make this all a little bit bigger, don't we? How are we feeling about the size of that type? You give me a fuss if you can't see, okay? So this stuff in the middle, which I'm highlighting here, this is our code editor. Cool. So we're going to get our instructions over here on this side of the page. We're going to do our work here. Oh, heck. We're going to do our work here. And then we're going to see the output. So what this HTML and what the CSS would look like on a live page way over on the right. Down here, we'll get our test output. So if something breaks or if something doesn't go right, we're going to get, just like real programmers, because you're real programmers now, just like real programmers, we're going to get test output saying, hey, this has gone wrong. Everything's bad. So keeping in mind that nothing is bad and everything is fine, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So we're going to start by building a simple web page using HTML, and we can edit our code in this code editor. And the first thing we're going to look at is an HTML element, and I'm really excited about this. So think about HTML elements as a single chunk. I like to think of them sort of as the characters of your web page. If your web page was a television show or a book, these are individual things that sit on your web page. Here we have an H1 element. So an H element, these are headings. These are these big, bold pieces of text that you want to pay attention to. And they're not just bigger and they're not just bolder than most text, but they're also more important. And we'll talk a little bit more about the importance of elements when we talk about accessibility. But this means somebody using a screen reader knows, and search engines, when they come to your website, know that this hello is more important than the other text it's going to see on the thing. So, almost all HTML elements have an opening tag and a closing tag. Opening tags have both little Pac-Mans, both of the pointy babies. And then in the middle, it'll tell you what the element is called. It'll set what kind of element we're working on. So here we've got, hey, I'm seeing that we're having a couple of little technical issues with Twitch. Give me just a second. Oh, fab. Are we back for Twitch? I'm so sorry, my loves. That's very stressful. We can tell that computers were a mistake. Fabulous. So sorry, you all are so patient. So we were talking about opening tags. So opening tags will have both of the little pokey brackets. And then within that, it'll go ahead and tell you, hey, here's what kind of element we're setting. And then a closing tag is going to look like this. So it's going to say, we've still got both of these little pointy brackets, but we're going to put a slash before the element name to say, you know what, we're done with this. We're finished. Thank you very much. So the only difference between an opening and closing tag is that forward slash after the opening bracket of a closing tag. And let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. We've got that opening bracket. We're going to go ahead and say, here's an H1, just like they've shown me. And this is us opening. This is the first opening bracket. In here is what we would, sort of the content, what the heading's supposed to be. And then to close it, we have another opening bracket. Ooh, it still thinks it's in there. And then a slash to say, hey, we're done with this H1. And it's usually really important to close your brackets. Sorry, just making sure that folks can still see us. We had a little bit of technical issues just a moment ago, and it looks like most folks are coming back. Everything's fine. So, oh, cool. Marco's got this fantastic question. Hey, can we use more than one H1 tag? Yes, 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 yes. In a real web page, you probably don't want to have all H1 tags, but it's absolutely possible and absolutely chill to have more than one. Yeah, I bet we're going to see more than one in this project eventually. Oh, and Siyash is also joining me and saying, yes, you can. You absolutely can. So we've understood what's going on here, that we're supposed to do the assignments here. We're going to push run tests, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Here we've got our buttons, run all tests. If we mess something up, we can reset our code. And if we really need help, we can get help anytime. I expect that most of you are going to be doing these assignments on your own and either previewing this with us or reviewing with us. So if you get stuck by yourself, don't feel like you need to wait for the live stream. You can go ahead and get help in the FreeCodeCamp one anytime, and it's all chill. Let's go ahead and do our first assignment. Our H1 element, so this element right here, we want to change it so that it says hello world. Okay, well, right now it says hello. And it says hello between the opening, and the closing tags. I'm going to let somebody else yell at me while I have a little drink of water. Where do you think I should put world to make this work? I'm very lazy making y'all do the work. After hello, beautiful. So I think if I write world right here, beautiful, everybody is complete. And I know this is so basic, me saying, hey, tell me where to do it. Oh, we've got folks doing this in the chat and giving us, look at this. This is absolutely so right. Thank you so much. Yeah, you all are so welcome to follow along or do this later. It's really about what works best for you. I think if I push run all tests, we should. And here's one of the things I love best about FreeCodeCamp. We're going to get, if we've done this right, we're going to get this big, shouty, wah-ha! Are you ready? Wah-ha! We are 4% of our way complete with basic HTML and HTML5. Everything's fine. We did our first challenge beautifully, and I credit all of y'all. Everything's fine. Let's try the next one. So now we're going to try the H2. And I just saw someone make a really good point a moment ago saying, oh, I think we've got more options than just H1. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and add that H2 element. And H2 is also a headline. It's also very important, but it's a little bit less important than your H1s. So if you come in and you're a screen reader user or you're a regular user saying, hey, I want to scan this. I want to see what's the most important. You're probably going to see this H1 too. It's nice and big and loud. Oh, sorry, I'm just allergic to the whole world today. And an H2 is going to be a little bit smaller. So this element tells the browser about the structure of our website. H1 is used for the most important headings. H2 is like subheadings. If you've used something like Google Docs or Word, maybe you've had a really big title for something that you're writing, and then those smaller subtitles. And then we've got H3, 4, 5, and 6 for different levels of subheadings. So we're going to go ahead. It is absolutely, Dan Andre makes a fantastic, oh, heck, that's just somebody lovely saying hi. Dan makes a really fantastic point, and I want to go ahead and really stress that it's possible to have more than one H1, but it is really recommended to only have one H1. Often, that's the title of the page. This is such a fantastic point. So we're going to add an H2, and our H2 is going to say cat photo app. So we're going to come down here. We're going to have our opening bracket, and we're going to write H2. All super chill. We've been asked to say cat. Let's look at what it's asking us to write here. Add an H2 tag that says cat photo app to create a second HTML element. And these elements are these entirety of our characters in our television show or our book or our play of a website. And they want me to say cat photo app. All is one word, which I find faintly distressing. But these are the instructions. Ooh, JJ makes a fantastic point asking this question that, is really, see, H2 will be sort of tagline here. Oh, heck, I'm just pushing all the wrong buttons. JJ makes a fantastic point. Does using different headings in a more structured way affect search engine optimization? Does this affect the way that search engines find and rank our content? Absolutely. So search engines are just virtual robots. They send little robots onto your page to scan it. So when you say H1, this is very important, is what you're saying to that search robot. And H2 is like, oh, this is still quite important. So this lets you sort of clearly communicate to search engine bots what you think is important. Oh, we've got another fantastic point. You all are so wonderful. We've got someone saying, hey, in case we're wondering, you don't have to have an H, and this is such a good point. You don't have to have an H1 tag on a page to have an H2 or 3 or 4. These are completely independent of each other, and I really appreciate this point. So, cat photo up. We've got this opening bracket again, and we're going to close it. And we're going to say H2 so we know what we're closing. And do you know what? I'm going to come down and look at what our assignment is. So we should create an H2 element. Oh, Sashin, you make such a good point. Why does the text show before closing the tag? This is such a good point. If you don't mind, let's explore this together a little bit. So the text shows before we've closed it because, and let's get rid of this closing apt while we discuss this, because we've already said, hey, browser, I want you to start an H2 tag. And because we haven't closed it, we've said begin an H2 tag, begin an H2 element. Now, everything that happens on the rest of this page is still going to be H2. So we've said begin an H2 element, but we haven't said stop it. So it's showing us everything as an H2 until we stop it. This is such a good question. Thank you so much. Oh, heck. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Here we've got the default. So this is default to showing us this page is all H2 in a regular paragraph. And we'll talk a little bit more about defaults in HTML as we go on. So we created an H2 tag. We created an H2 element by opening it here. That feels okay. And we've got a closing tag for that. We've closed it here. Our H2 element should have the text cat photo app. We've got that here. We should still have our old H1 element, and our H1 element should come before our H2 element. I think we've got all of this just about right. Let's run these tests. Blissfully, completely, and beautifully, we are 7% complete. When you do this next one, we'll be 10% done, and it's going to feel fantastic. Cool. So we're going to inform with the paragraph element. And we saw before, just to cheat, we're writing. When we just write in HTML without setting it, it kind of assumes we need a paragraph. We should still go ahead and put these as explicit tags. So a paragraph element means just regular old text. It's not a super important H1 element. It's not a real important H2 element. This is just the regular kind of text you're going to see on a website. And that's pretty important by itself. So they're the preferred element for paragraph text on websites. And P is short for paragraph. So we can create a paragraph element like this. Open the element with a P and say, we're beginning this paragraph. Oh, this is such a good question. I'm going to bop to this real fast. So does HTML execute in order or what? And we've got a fantastic answer right away from one of my favorite guests joining us. Yep. HTML is presenting a document to your browser. And what your browser does to read HTML is just start at the top and read down nice and chill. So when you say, hey, here's an H1 element, I'm giving it to you first, your browser's going to say, cool, I'm going to show this H1 element first. And you say, well, next on this HTML file, I've got an H2 element. Say, okay, we're going to show you that next because we're just going to go ahead and read it down the way you would a book. So P elements are going to feel a lot like H1 and H2. We open them, we close them, and everything's fine. So here, our homework is to create a P element with below our H2 one and say hello paragraph. We've had a question already asking if HTML is case sensitive, which means does it care if it's lowercase or uppercase? And here we've got a note that by convention, and that means, well, as sort of a friendly rule, HTML tags are written lowercase. But let's experiment for a second. What do you think would happen if we tried it with a capital? Is this going to work? Is this working? Well, this seems to be working, but convention is sort of the idea of a best practice. They say, well, it's going to be more readable. It's going to be more understandable to your peers if you say, keep it lowercase for your tags, for your HTML tags. So we're going to do that. We've got a opening bracket, a P, and if you hover over this if you hover over an element in FreeCodeCamp, one thing I think that's really exciting is it's going to link you to the MDN reference. So if you're ever asking, hey, what's this? It'll go ahead and link you directly and say, well, here's what's going on. Everything's fine. We're going to go ahead and say, hello, paragraph. Just like we've been asked to. And you all may notice that I have just the loudest keyboard in the world. It's so that y'all can hear when I'm typing and when I'm muttering darkly to myself. So let's check our assignment. Our code should have a valid paragraph element. Feels like a valid paragraph element. We got both of our little brackets and a P. Our P element should have the text hello paragraph. And someone help me. Feel like I might have spelled paragraph, okay? And then we should close that. I feel gently confident that we can run these tests. And we're more than 10% of the way through. I'm such a liar. I'd love to lie to you and say, hey, when you're done with this, that's all of the HTML you're ever going to need to learn. But I fear that becoming a web developer or doing any kind of development or doing any kind of work, really, any creative work, and I'd politely and lovingly argue that programming and web development is creative work. I confess that this is something where you're going to have to be lifelong learners. So we're 11% of the way through this HTML course. I'm so sorry that this isn't going to be the only time you learn HTML. As you work on it, you're going to be consistently looking things up and learning new things. So we're going to go to the next challenge. And I think this is going to be super chill. Y'all have been so helpful. This has been so mellow. Everything's going to be just fine. Ooh. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the blank with placeholder text. And I'm excited to talk about this because the first time I saw placeholder text, I freaked out. So placeholder text is lorem ipsum text. And the first time I saw this in web development, I was like, oh, what is this magical code? And lorem ipsum text is just a piece of Latin. So it's a Latin text that's random. There was no reason it was chosen. But it's used whenever you're building a website and you don't know what text you're going to use yet. You can use whatever text you want, but this is sort of an internet custom. Yeah. So a bunch of happy internet nerds a long time ago got together and said, hey, when you're building a website and you don't have the text ready yet, we're going to use lorem ipsum. And here we've got a different kind of placeholder text. And it's kitty ipsum. You say, okay, we're going to replace the text inside our paragraph element. So this one, this right here. Look at our paragraph element. We're going to take the paragraph element here, and we're going to replace it with this placeholder text. So this says, oh, you know what? I don't do Latin very well. Kitty ipsum, dolor sit amet, shed everywhere, stretching, attack your ankles, chase the red dot, hairball, run, catnip, eat the grass, sniff. So this doesn't mean much. These are just some words about cat and a little bit of cats and a little bit of Latin. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do what programmers love to do more than anything else. We're going to copy and paste. Yes. And when you're copying and pasting code, be careful. There can be security issues. But we're just copying and pasting this placeholder text. We are going to paste this in. How do we feel about this? And then we're going to check our assignment here. Our P element should contain the first few words of the provided kitty ipsum text. Yep, Oh, we've got such a good point being made here that thank you so much. I really should have pointed this out. When you want to copy a piece of text, it's Control or Command C. And when you want to paste that again, it's Control or Command V. Thank you so much for pointing that out. I was being rubbish. I am gently confident that if we run all tests, we're 14% of the way through basic HTML and HTML5. Everything is fine. Everything's going to continue to be fine. I mean, big picture, the wider world, I can't promise that everything's going to be mellow and good, but we're going to be hanging out for another hour and a half. Nothing. I sincerely hope that nothing super terrible is going to happen right about now. Oh, we've got another really good piece of copy paste advice. Oh, heck. Sorry. Saying, hey, when you're copy pasting some HTML from the internet, be super careful about these opening and closing tags. This is such good advice. And more excitingly, it's the kind of good advice I love to ignore. So when I'm talking to you, say, well, don't copy and paste stuff you find off the internet all the time. It's important to type it out. But I confess that I'll copy paste it off the internet all the time because I'm rubbish. And when you are copy pasting, be really careful about the opening and closing tags to save time, which I never do. I love wasting my own time. Oh, you know what? We've got a really fantastic question about the course, and I just want to detour into this for a second. So, is there any attendance or deadline or anything? Gloriously no. So, these live sessions you can turn up whenever they're useful for you. They're also going to be videotaped, but these are just intended to give you some sort of extra support. The forums as well. If it's useful for you to be in the forums, if it's useful for you to come and chat to other folks, come and hang out. We love that. But even though there is a schedule, here's what we're going to be covering as a group week to week. If you want to run on ahead and get way ahead of us, there's nothing to stop you. Or if you get sick or distracted or busy or go on vacation and fall behind, that's super okay too. Everything is completely fine. So we had some questions earlier that I was really excited about comments. And I think comments are really important. So we'll talk about these a little bit. Oh, yes, we've got somebody saying, hey, if we want to finish the course at our own pace ahead of schedule, can we? Absolutely, yes. The only reason we're doing this as a boot camp is we think it might be helpful for folks to be able to learn together. If it's helpful for you to go ahead and rush and finish it, do it, do it, do it. There's no way we would want to hold you back. So, comments. And comments are really exciting in HTML. Comments are when you want to tell your future self something, or it's relatively rare to be working on a website by yourself, isn't it? So if you're doing, oh, cool. Sasha's got a really good question. Are we going to be studying JavaScript together? We're not going to be studying JavaScript on this module together. If we've got the ability to, I'd really, really love to come back and do a discrete JavaScript module later, but we're not going to be covering it as part of this course. Oh, cool. We've got other people pointing this out. We're not going to be covering it in this bootcamp. If we get some sponsorship in, if there's the demand, we'd love to come back and do this in January, focusing on JavaScript, but there's no promises yet. Sorry, lovelies. Comments. I'm going to stay on track this time. Comments are when you want to, oh, heck, we've got a note about that, a notification we can close. Comments are when you want to leave a note to your future self. You want to say, hey, I want to say something about this HTML, but I don't want it to display on the browser. I do want to go ahead and be really, really clear, though, that comments aren't secret. So if you go to a website and you right-click and you say View Source with your browser, you're going to be able to see the HTML someone's written, including the comments. How exciting. So don't put anything rude in a comment. Don't put anything offensive in a comment. But they're a good way to leave a note for your future self, or a note for your coworkers, or a sort of like secret code for other web developers who might be looking at your view source. A comment in HTML starts with an opening tag, an exclamation point, and a dash dash. And it ends, and this is going to be unusual because we've learned that closing tags end with that slash after the opening tag, after the opening of the opening bracket, and then a slash is how we usually end an HTML tag. But comments end with a dash dash and then a closing bracket. So here we've got an opening comment up here, and down here we've got a closing comment. And this actually shows really excitingly one really, really good use for comments is you can comment out code. You say, I've written a bunch of HTML, but I don't want this to display right now. I've got an error somewhere, or something's broken, or I want to focus only on this part. You can use comments to say, I've already written this HTML, but don't show it in the browser yet. I don't want to deal with this now. So here, that's what's happened. We've got this commented all of our HTML code. So we're going to uncomment it. Uncomment your H1, H2, and P elements. And here when it says uncomment, it just means get rid of the comment. You say, well, Jess, you got rid of the closing comment, and all of this is still commented. I still can't see any of this. What gives? And if you remember from when we were talking about H2 tags, why does it show our H2 text before we've given our H2 closing tag? It's because that we've told our browser we're starting a comment. Oh, beautiful. Got somebody asking the exact same question. Here, we've started a comment. We say, hey, everything that comes after this is a comment. But we haven't ended it. So as soon as we get rid of this, this is really the instruction that says start a comment. I think when we get rid of this, hey, that's going to uncomment it. We've gotten rid of our instruction that says start a comment. And if we add a bracket, that's not going to start a comment. We're still fine. Perfect. Yeah. This is such a good point. So here, this is showing us the start of the comment because we've said, hey, begin, but we haven't quite yet said, hey, stop. So just to try it again, if I say, here's an opening bracket, doesn't comment everything out. I can even say, here's that exclamation point. Ooh, that's done some weird stuff. Look how cool this is. Once I say that dash dash, it comments everything out. So let's go ahead and look at our homework. It said, we're going to uncomment this. So it says, our H1 element should be visible on the page by uncommenting it. And I can see an H1 here. It feels good. Our H2 element should be visible. I'm seeing it here. And our P element should be visible. And this one's so important. No trailing comment tag should be visible on the page. Okay, let's look at what this means. And I confess that I just do this all the time. So what does it mean, no trailing comment tags? First, let's put our comments back. That's done properly. If I had just deleted the start of this comment, it shows me everything. It gets rid of the comment because I've not said begin a comment. And here, when I say end a comment, the browser doesn't know what I mean. It might think I want to say dash dash. It might think I just want to put an arrow and display it here. So here, we've got explicit instructions to say, hey, make sure you get rid of these closing tags. I don't want to see them in your homework. I think if we come all the way up and run these tests, what do we think? We're thinking like 13, 14%. You think we're going to pass? Oh, 18%. We are almost 20% of the way done with this. Everything is beautiful. So we've just learned how to uncomment HTML, and we're going to go ahead and learn how to do this. We've got a really fantastic question from Isa. Isa is asking, hey, in web development, is HTML for content and CSS is used for design? So absolutely correct there. Are these used simultaneously? Yes, 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 yes. We will almost always see HTML and CSS living together in projects. We're going to go ahead and focus on HTML first. Then we're going to learn some CSS, but almost immediately when we're learning CSS, we're going to see them sitting together. Yeah, everything is fine. So we're going to comment out HTML. So remember that in order to start a comment, we need to use the opening bracket, exclamation point, dash, dash, this one right here. And to close it, we're going to want to see dash, dash, closing bracket. But what we're doing here is we've got some homework. It says, hey, Jess, not just hey, Jess, hey, team, I want you to comment out that H1 tag, and I want you to comment out that P tag, but I want to see that H2. I want to see that H2 displayed on the screen. And I think that's what our tests are going to ask us. Our H1 element should be commented out. Our H2 element should not be commented out. And our P element should be commented out. And each of our comments should be properly closed. And again, no cheating. We cannot change the order. So I'm going to do this real nice and slow. But I'd love for some of you to yell at me in the comments about how we're going to do this. Ooh, 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 somebody is jumping ahead, and I love this. We've got somebody asking, what about the doc type HTML? This is such a good point. And I'm only going to show this to you to sort of preview this. This is something we're going to learn a little bit later in the course. It's super important. But let's just go ahead and point out that Life Best Moments had a really good point here, and this is going to come up. This is sort of a weird way to learn it, but let's go ahead and learn it a weird way. Cool. We've got an absolutely correct answer. We're going to be writing two different comment sort of elements here. Let's go ahead and look at them. And because we're lazy, how about we copy paste? Control C and Control V. Huh. That's commented out our hello world. That's what we wanted, right? And here, we also want to comment out. We want to not show our paragraph tag. Absolutely, Abdul. You're absolutely fantastic on this. I'm not going to copy paste it this time because I'm lazy, but I'm not like super, super lazy. I'm super, super lazy. I'm going to get opening bracket, exclamation point, dash, dash, and our paragraph goes away. Let's check this. So our H1 element shouldn't be visible. I feel good about that. Our H2 element shouldn't be commented out. We should be able to see it. And here's our H2 element. I feel all right about this. Our paragraph element should be commented out. We've got a start of a comment, the end of a comment. It's invisible. Everything's fine. And each of our comments, both of our comments, should be closed. They're both closed here. And we haven't changed the order. It's H1, H2, and P. How do we feel? We feel like if I push go, we're going to get this little ba-ba reward screen because I am gently confident that I'm going to push run tests. And 21% done. Y'all are absolutely carrying me through this, and I really appreciate it. So I confess, I already told you all I love to lie. Oh, you know what? I think this is really useful. I'm gonna talk about me being a liar in just a second. But Bernardo makes a really good point here, saying, you know what, let's talk a little bit about the difference between a tag and an element. And I think this is really valuable. So if it's not a bother, I'd love to focus on this for just a minute. So when we talk about a tag is generally this opening bracket, what the type of element it's going to be, and this closing bracket. So whenever you see both of these opening and closing brackets, that's going to be one tag, isn't it? Whereas an element is the whole thing. Here we've got an opening tag. Here we've got a closing tag. And this is the opening tag for H1. This is the closing tag for H1. And when we take all of them together, that's the full element. So that's the character. Does that feel okay? Yeah. We've got tags can be used to describe the HTML elements. These HTML elements are generally going to be made up of these opening and closing tags, which is, yeah, can get a little bit confusing. I promise, as much as I can promise anything in the world of the 2020s, this is one of those things where it feels a little bit weird. But the more you work with these and the more you read tutorials to say, write your opening tag, write your closing tag, do an the more you see this language and the more you touch this language, the sort of less weird it gets. Ooh, I love this. All elements have tags, but not all tags have elements. And this is one of those mysterious things that is going to make more sense the more you touch it. So the big thing I really want to stress is a lot of this is going to feel weird at the beginning. It is super normal for this to feel weird. We're just going to go ahead and continue to do this. And most importantly, we're going to continue looking things up until it feels less weird. Hey, Felis has a really good point here. Elements are made up of tags. So this opening tag and this closing tag and the content it contains are all one element. So this is such a fantastic point. Some elements don't have matching closing tags, and we'll talk about that in a little while. It's all chill. So we're going to delete some HTML. And I lied to you earlier and I said, oh, do you know what? Programmers' favorite thing to do is copy paste. And I confess that's a lie. I think what programmers love, 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 love is deleting code. And that is because I love, 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 love deleting code. So, hey, in this example, we're designing this for a phone that doesn't have a lot of vertical space. There's not a lot of up and down. So we're going to delete the unnecessary elements so we can start building our cat photo app. Here, it's saying delete our H1 element so we can simplify our view. Ooh, Sachin's got such a good question before I jump in. What is HTML5? I love this. HTML5 is HTML, so it's the programming language HTML. It's just the newest version of this. And we've actually got, so the way these courses are going to be scheduled is every Monday, we're going to be meeting at this time. Every Tuesday, we're going to be meeting about 7 hours later, just to make it fair for people in different time zones. And on Tuesdays, we'll be covering the exact same content. So no need to come on Tuesday if you came today, unless you really, really want to. And on Wednesdays at different times, we're going to be having guest speakers. Our guest speaker this Wednesday is going to be Barbara Oakley and Zach Cohen, who are going to be talking to us about how programmers learn and how they can learn. Whereas next Wednesday, we're going to be joined by Bruce Lawson, who literally wrote the book about HTML5. And he's going to be talking to us about why is it HTML5? Oh, so we've got a question. Well, what should we say? Are we just going to say HTML or HTML5? And these days, they kind of mean the same thing. So if you just say HTML, somebody will get it. If you're talking about something that's only found in the newest version of HTML5, we'll go ahead and specify HTML5. I'm so sorry. I'm just allergic to everything. So we are going to delete our H1 element. So we've just gone over the fact that this is a tag, and this is a tag. This is an opening tag for our H1. This is the content for our H1, what our H1 says. And this is the closing tag. We want to delete the whole element. We want to delete everything that makes this up. So, look at that. Look at that savagery. It's gone. There's no mercy in our hearts. We've killed it. So, now that we have mercilessly killed this, I think we can run all tests. Yeah. We are a quarter of the way through HTML. Everything remains extremely fine. I'm gonna bring this up for a second because I think this is really exciting to talk about. So HTML through the different versions has changed. And HTML is backwards compatible. And this means that every time they make a new HTML, they want to make sure that it doesn't break old websites. And we're actually going to have somebody joining us later a guest speaker joining us later on in the course who's going to talk about how those decisions get made. And that's really something called web standards, the idea of backwards compatibility. So say, hey, when we come out with new shared web technologies, so when we have new versions of HTML, or if we have new versions of CSS, or even we're not covering JavaScript in this course, but if something's new with JavaScript, we want to make sure that as this gets released, it doesn't break all those old websites. Um, but some things have gone away. And there used to be a tag called the marquee tag, which when you put an opening tag, marquee, and then some text and a closing tag, it would literally, and I shudder to confess I used this on my first website. It would make the text move along your screen like a little movie theater marquee. And it was very ugly and it was very distracting. And I loved it and I miss it. So generally speaking, very few things go away when HTML changes, but a couple things went away. So we had such a great question earlier about what is an element, and I was really excited because I knew we were going to talk about this a little bit more. We've got somebody saying, "Oh wow, marquee sounds very 2000s," and I must confess, I'm a very old lady. Marquee and the blink tag as well. Um, we're very 90s even. It wouldn't be very good for the web, and it wouldn't be it would be very distracting. But I see that people are bringing back like dip dye, hair dye. So like I've seen a lot of happy people with the bottoms of their hair dyed green. Um, I'd love to see marquee make a comeback. Egg roll. Such a fantastic question. Are we learning HTML or are we learning HTML5? Yes. That seems like a mean way to ask it. But it's like if I loaned you my iPhone. I've got an iPhone 6 because I'm cheap. I said, "Hey, here's my iPhone." He said, "Oh, is it an iPhone or is it an iPhone 6?" I'd say, "Yes, this is an iPhone. It is an iPhone 6. And the number 5 is just the version of the HTML we're working on. It's still HTML." Everything is just I love these questions. You all are absolutely charming. Yes, HTML5, as the newest version of HTML, introduced more descriptive HTML tags. And some of these were main, header, footer, nav, video, section. And these tags let us structure our HTML and they make it easier to read. If I start an HTML document, and this is a preview, but we'll generally start it by saying, "Hey, the type of this document is HTML." And then I say, "Well, here's the header." It means that anybody coming to my website, robot or human, is going to be able to say, "Hey, this is the header. Here's what I expect to see in the header." So the main element is what we're going to be looking at here. And the main element is just saying like, "Hey, hey, hey." And because we talk to our browser very informally. With CSS, we're going to learn to yell at our browser as well. But like our users' browsers are generally going to be helping us out. So we say, "Hey, Chrome," or if you're me, "Hey, Firefox, when you see this, could you do this? Or when you see this, could you display this?" And really, we are being an absolute dude to our browsers. We're being a good friend to our browsers using the main element because what we're saying is, "Hey, browser, hey, Chrome, hey, Firefox, hey, DuckDuckGo browser, when you see this main element right here, most of the website content, most of the stuff in our website is going to live in here." And there's a concept I want to address in here, which is The main element in this example, and let's look at this example together. Let's highlight it. The main element here is the parent element. So we say, here's sort of a top level element, and there's going to be elements that live inside this element, and those are going to be our children. Yeah, that seems fair. That if you've got elements inside an element, they're the babies. They're the babies of our big top level element. And later on, and I really like talking about them as children. It gets a little macabre here because later on, we're going to be talking about concepts like inheritance. So, what do these child elements or what do these child classes, when we're learning about CSS, get from their parents? So, if we start already thinking about main here being the parent and these H1 and P being the children, that's going to go ahead and start giving us sort of some concepts around this. Ooh. Oh, so we haven't even touched on doc type yet, but this is a really, really good question. Does doc type always have to be in uppercase? And I don't think so. It's going to explicitly teach us doc type in a little while. And when we come to that, let's go ahead and experiment and see what happens if we don't do it in uppercase. Whenever you've got a question like this, it's like, hey, what happens if I do this weird thing? What I want to bully you to do, and the whole reason I wanted to do this course is I'm very mean and I wanted to bully you all. I want to bully you to say, hey, does this have to be in uppercase? Write it, try it in lowercase and see if it runs. So we've got the idea of what a main element is. It's the element that most of our website context is going to sit in. And we've sort of previewed the idea of child elements, these little baby elements that live inside a parent. We're going to come down and see what our homework is. We're going to create a second P element, and we're going to put this placeholder text inside it. Then we're going to create a main element and put both of our P elements inside it, make it the children. Let's do this step by step. Everything's chill. Opening tag, P, with the loudest keyboard in the world. You are so patient with this springy keyboard. We're going to copy and paste this. I don't think there's any learning value in you all watching me mistype a long paragraph. And my beloveds, oh, heck. We're going to go ahead and close that. We always want to close our tags. We're so good about that. We're so responsible. Ooh, we've got such a good point. We've got some, yeah. So here we're going to come up and we're going to create our main tags. I'm going to take just a moment to let you all, I'm very lazy. Hang on. Two things are going to happen. I'm going to let you all tell me what line number I should put the opening main tag on. So yell at me, hey, Jess, put the opening main tag on this line. And while you all yell at me, I'm going to talk about this. Well, what happens if we skip the main tag? And nothing bad will happen. Nothing will break. It won't be as friendly for our users. It won't be as friendly for screen readers. It won't be as friendly for bots that come from search engines. But it won't be the end of the world. Our website will still mostly work for many users if we skip the main. But main is going to be it's best practice. And you say, well, Jess, what's a best practice? And I say, well, best practice are those rules that we follow to try and make our websites as accessible as possible and as useful as possible, but also make it make sense to other people working on this. Yeah, we follow best practices because it makes our websites as useful as possible to the most people, but also because it sort of helps keeps things neat and tidy in our heads. And we've got a ton of people yelling at me and yelling the right answer at me. Hey, Jess, I think we're going to start our main tag on. And those of you who said we're going to start our main tag on line 2 are absolutely correct. And I appreciate it. Ooh. Somebody, Ragnarok, is pointing out that when we're talking about best practices, what we really mean are good habits. And I love this. I'm going to cheat and steal this from you. I'll cite you all the time and say, yeah, when we talk about a best practice, we mean those good habits. It's being polite. Oh, and you know what? I've got somebody who's just absolutely skipping to the end of this homework, and I love it, and saying, hey, we're going to start our main element up here on line 2, and we're going to come down to, is it line 6? It is line 6. And we're going to close our main element here. So that hasn't really changed anything that we're seeing. But, and can I tab this? Another thing we're going to do, which is going to feel a little weird. Oh, heck. Is I like to go ahead and tab over our content here so we can see that these are the children of main. So we've got main. Here we go. We've got main. And then we've got these child elements indented a little bit. And these, it's not essential. It doesn't change anything at all to have this indentation. It just makes it easier for other people to read. We're going to come way down to the bottom and see what our homework was. We got 2 P elements with Kitty Ipsum. Yes. Each of our P elements should have a closing tag. We absolutely did this. We're super responsible. We're good kids. Our P elements should have the provided text. We're good. Our code should have 1 main element. So we've got an opening main element and a closing main. I think we've only got 1. And our main elements should have the paragraph elements as children. And here you might think, well, Jess, you added that tab. Did that do that? And even without the tab, these are still the child elements. These still sit inside. But by adding this tab, it just makes it more readable for us as developers that these are the child elements. And the opening main tag should come before the first paragraph tag. We're good. And then at the bottom, the closing main tag should come after the closing paragraph. I think I can push yes on this. I think we said go, and this has been a lot of requirements, but I think when we push this, everything's going to be fine. What do y'all think? Ooh. Yeah. So Tanya makes a really good point here, saying, well, is it safe to say that the main tag is for others? I like this question because this is very philosophical. I think almost all of the ways that we write semantic HTML, and semantic HTML here means like properly structured HTML. It's almost always for other people. Say, when we create the main tag, we're making it easier for robots to understand, or assistive technology to understand our site, or making it easier to process this. And that's really useful. Oh, fab. We've got a really good example. So for those of our viewers who are joining us on YouTube, the YouTube logo and search and login, those are probably not going to be part of main. Screen readers would skip those and come right to the main content. So folks using an assistive technology wouldn't start at the top and say, YouTube logo, search. They'd come right in and say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what you want to see. Cool. You all are so good at this and so helpful. How confident are we feeling? Do we think that maybe we did this main correctly? Everything continues to be fine. We are almost 30% of the way done with this. Everything is okay. Oh, we've got a really good point here. So far, a lot of what we've been doing is text, right? I think everything we've been doing so far is text. And then this conceptual, we're going to add the main tag. Here, we're finally going to get some pictures. We're gonna liven this up a little bit. And pictures get to be really, really difficult because I think part of what we need to talk about a little bit is the concept of files in web development. Right now, everything we've been working on has been in this sort of browser element, right? So we've been saying, hey, we're gonna read our instructions here. We're gonna write our code here, and we're gonna see it here. So this all happens in our browser. This is a really artificial environment. But when we talk about websites in the real world, what we're really talking about are files that your users' browsers are going to access and read. You say files. What do you mean files? So think about this HTML that we've written is going to be a file. This is going to be a document that we save. And the same way, if you're writing a paper for school, if you're writing a report for work, you might have a file that's called report.docx or homework.txt. And that's sort of the file name, like docx or .text. Here, when we're writing HTML in the real world, we're going to save this HTML we've written as a file. And it'll be a .html or a .htm file. And we're just going to sort of preview this a little bit because we're going to talk about this a little bit more. And the reason I'm talking to you about images is because when we're showing an image, your image has to come from somewhere. And here's an example of adding an image. And this image image file has been saved to free catphotoop.yourimage.jpg. But if you're showing an image on someone else's website, there's a couple of different problems with that. A, it's very rude. And B, this is called hot linking. And this can be a security issue. So if I have an image that I've saved on my website, so it's a file that I've saved to my storage, my hosting storage, and it's at jessica.tech/cool.jpg. And you say, I really like that cool picture that Jess posted on her website. I am going to put it on my website, but I'm just going to link to the same location. Can anybody guess what the security issue might be with that? How could that go wrong? If I say, oh, Jessica has uploaded a cool image file, I'm going to put it on my website just by linking to it. How could that go bad? I'm going to let y'all have a little bit of discussion about this while I start adding an image to this website. So you can add an image to your website using the img element, and then we're going to point it at the specific image's URL using the src attribute. Ooh, cool. Yeah, I was asking this question. So if you hot link to an image, how could this go wrong? And Ahmed, you're absolutely right. What if this picture changed in the future? Yeah. If I've uploaded an image called cool.jpg and then you link to my image, what's keeping me from deleting that image and putting up a very rude picture for cool.jpg? Oh, somebody else, another good point. If I move it, if I change the file name, it'll break your site. Oh, and sorry, I could change it to anything. I wouldn't be so evil, but yeah, it's also very rude. So we've got a really, really good example of why we don't want a hot link. It's rude. Also, Jessie's mean and she could change it to anything. So we're going to look at these image links. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this so we can explore what these images feel like for a second. Ooh, that's very big. So let's see, part of that image is huge. I want to take a look not at the image itself, but I want to take a look at what this is made up of. So let's look at this. Note that image elements are self-closing. So I told you I was a liar, and this is again me being a liar. I've kept telling you, I've been being so mean where I said, you must close all of your HTML elements. You must close your tags. You must, except for the tags that are self-closing. Fabio makes a really good point about hot linking where he's just like, hey, stealing is just wrong as well. I've told you again and again, oh, you always want to have this closing slash to close your elements, but an image element doesn't actually need that. So I'm so sorry to have continued to lie to you. I'll probably continue to lie to you. And here we've got our opening bracket. And they were saying, hey, this is an image element. And here we've got this SRC. And when I say the SRC, I mean, please display this. Ooh. Are we having issues with Twitch again, my loves? Hey. I'm so sorry. We just had a little tiny bit of an issue with Twitch. Computers were a mistake. Everything's terrible. Y'all are back now. Hello, my loves. Everything's fine. So we're going to say starty bracket, image to say this is an image element, and then SRC to say, please display this image screen. And we say, hey, here's where this file is. I'm starting an image element. I want you to show me. I want you to show my users this image. And I want you to go and get it from this URL. And one thing that's super, 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 super important is that how mean can I be to learners? Oh, Felix makes a great point. I always mentally parse SRC for screen, and that's so wrong. SRC is short for source. So we are saying, here's your bracket. It's an image element. And SRC is like, hey, here's the source of the image. Here's where you can get this. Thank you so much. And image elements must have an alt element. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. This is absolutely correct. The alt attribute goes ahead and gives us a fallback to say, hey, if someone isn't able to access this image, either because of bandwidth or because they're using a screen reader or something else is going on, it's going to display this text instead. We've got somebody asking, hey, Jess, why didn't we put this image inside of main? And I confess that we didn't put this image inside of main just because we're not actually doing the homework yet. I just wanted to throw this image source up here so we could look at it. I bet money that it's very likely we're going to be putting this in main. You're absolutely right. So we've got a really good question about hot linking again. And say, hey, how does hot linking affect traffic and hosting capacity? I love this. So this gets into a little bit of sort of the ops behind how websites work. So we talked very, very generally about how when you build a website for real outside of this tutorial environment, that these are going to be files. So an HTML file, an image files. And we'll talk about hosting a little more later on. But what you're going to do with these files is you're going to give them to a host and say, hey, save all of these files in a space. And then people will come and get them. One of the big problems with hot linking is you're asking someone else's host to deal with your traffic. So every time somebody comes to your webpage, your host, be it private or be it yourself, is going to say, oh, hey, a browser has requested this webpage. I will give it to you. Or a browser has requested this image file. I will serve it to you. And when you hot link, what you're really saying is, hey, I want someone else's host to do this serving for me. And that's That's terribly rude, isn't it? You're asking someone else to sort of handle your traffic, and it's not polite at all. So, we've just been looking at this as an example, and we're going to get rid of this. We're going to completely delete it because we're actually going to do our homework now. All of our elements must have an alt attribute. And the alt attribute is where we describe our image. Yeah. If the image is purely decorative, using an empty alt attribute is the best practice. You say, Jess, you just told me that I must have alt. But now you're telling me I can have an empty alt. I say, yeah. If I've got an image that doesn't add anything, if I've got like a blank spacer or just a little decorative scroll bar in the middle of my web page, that doesn't add anything to the experience. I can say, there is an image here, and I wanted to use a descriptive image name. So if I was putting up a picture of a cat, ooh, I love this. People who listen to your website appreciate the alt attribute. So we're going to be talking about this a lot during our accessibility portion, but I want to make sure that when we talk about website accessibility, that it's not just limited to our accessibility section. Ooh, can we talk about ethics for a second? Oh, God, do you know what? I could talk about whatever I want. Y'all can't stop me. So when we're building a website, I would lovingly push you all to think about this in terms of ethics. When you're building a website, you're publishing something potentially to the whole world. And if you build something that's not accessible, that means that you're saying, hey, I thought this was important. I think this website's important. I wanted to make it. I wanted to give it to the world. But some people won't be able to see this, or some people will be able to see half of this, or some people would just get big blank pieces. And the ethics behind that are pretty ropey, right? Like, hey, I thought this website was so important I wanted to make it, but not so important that I wanted to make it accessible. I'm not your boss and I'm not your mother, and I can't tell you what to think and I can't tell you what to do. But I'd love to lightly bully you to think about building websites in terms of ethical duties. What's your ethical responsibility to your users and to your potential users? How can you make sure that as many people as possible have the opportunity to see what you've built, both from a selfish, like, ha ha ha, I want everyone to see my beautiful website, but also from a people deserve. And I think there's an ethical imperative to make things that are open to everybody. Thank you for letting me go on a little rant. You all are so patient. So ideally, the alt attribute shouldn't include special characters unless needed. So it's tempting to do cute stuff with alt text, but if you put emoji in your alt text and there's not a really comprehensive reason, I will be very, very disappointed with you. Yeah. I hope that's a comprehensive enough reason to be like, oh, I shouldn't put special characters in the alt text unless I absolutely must, because Jessie will be disappointed. Let's go ahead and let's copy and paste this whole example and take it over here. So we've got our two big cat picture. And here we've got our opening, bracket. We've got the specification. What is this element? It's an image element. Here's our source. And here's what the link is. Here's where we're sourcing that. And our alt is saying, this is our alt text. And that's giving an alternative description of the image. Here it's saying a business cat wearing a necktie. And I think it's very, very important that we take a look at this business cat. Look how valuable this business cat is. Obviously, we love this cat. I hate to tell y'all what y'all think, but if I was on limited bandwidth, I'd still want to know that there's a cat in a necktie here. And if I was using a screen reader, I would definitely deserve to know there's a cat in a necktie here. This alt text is heckin' important. I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this because we're going to go ahead and hand type. We're going to artisanally handcraft our own element. And where did that very good? So is it an issue if my image doesn't appear red like yours? I don't think so. I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but let's do an image and see what it looks like. Oh, yours looks black? It doesn't seem like a problem to me. I'm coming back up because I had a really good question earlier. Where did you go? Ha! We had somebody asking Jess, and this is such a good question, such a smug question. Jess, you're copying and pasting these image examples. Why aren't you putting them in main? And I was reasonably sure you were right. I just want to come back and say you were absolutely right. These are going to go in main. So here we've got our homework within the existing main element, just like you said. Thank you very much. We're going to insert an image element before the existing P elements. So inside a main, before both of our paragraph elements. You come down here. We're going to tab over just to go ahead and keep this straight. You say image source. And then we're going to say equals and parentheses. Ooh, let's look at that again. Ready? Did you see a broken looking image? Hey, we see a broken image. I'm excited about this broken image. You say, Jess. Cool. Sorry. I was asking, they say, hey, when you were we were asking about the red in my image. It's about tag syntax highlighting. Yeah, don't worry about it if it's not appearing red, if it appears black. It's chill. It's just the syntax highlighting. I need to get my allergies under control if we're going to keep doing this. So I am super excited about this broken image we're seeing up here. And I'm excited about it because that's showing us that we're making an image the right way. Say, okay. Oh, heck. We're going to get these. Let's look at our context again. So we've got image screen. We've got an equal sign in these parentheses. And then we're going to have our alt text next. So I'm going to go ahead and before we add our image and alt text, I'm going to go ahead and get all of our syntax out, right? And then we've got the closing at the end. So we've got our syntax. We've got the grammar of what this is going to look like all laid out pretty okay, yeah? So here, we're saying, I'm going to open this tag, little bracket. I'm going to start an image element. The source is going to be equals to what's inside these parentheses. And then I'm going to set an alt element. And the alt element is going to be equal to what's inside these parentheses. If this is just decorative, we can leave our alt tag blank. But I don't think this is going to be element because what we're being asked to link this to is something called relaxing cat. I'm going to copy this, Control C. I'm going to paste this. I bet we get a cat. Where's my cat? Hey, we get a cat. And we're going to give this an alt text with applicable text, but I am very lazy. Y'all, I'm just teaching y'all all the bad things about me. I'm lazy, I lie, I'm a bully. But because I am lazy and a bully, I would like to crowdsource this alt text. Please, taking a look at a relaxing ginger kitty, please let me know what I should add as my alt text. So if y'all either in the Twitch chat or in the YouTube chat, go ahead and tell me, hey, Jess, call it this or call it this. I'm going to take the best alt text I see fastest. I'm just going to throw it in there. Oh, while you all are giving me suggestions for this alt tags, we've got some really good questions. Where can we get our pictures? Where do we put our pictures for our websites? Is it saved in our web page? And yeah, so for these tutorials, all of our images are going to be linked to. They're going to supply the links for the source for our images. But when we do our own websites, we're going to want to save our image files to our host and then link to them from there. We've got so many good of these. We've got somebody asking, hey, I promise we will repeat this live stream tomorrow. It'll be between 3 and 5 p.m. UK time. But if you look in the web portal, which I'm going to ask my lovely assistant to throw in the chat, it'll go ahead and should show that in your local time. I'm going to go with Toxic Mender's suggestion because it says cute. And we're going to use the alt text cute ginger kitty lying upside down. Oh, heck, how do I copy and paste? Oh, I can't copy and paste from here. How rubbish. So cute ginger kitty lying upside down. It feels good. Ready to come all the way down. We are going to check our homework because I am low-key confident here. Our page does indeed have an image element, does indeed have a source attribute that points at the specified kitten. Our image element's alt attribute should not be empty. This is not a purely decorative image. This image conveys deep, important meaning for people who love little tiny kitties. How are we feeling? Yep. A great question about the course. We're going to run this stream tomorrow. It's going to be the exact same stuff. We're not going to get away from you. I am gently confident that we can run the tests here. We're going to run the tests here. We're going to run the tests here. 32% of the way complete. Everything's fine. Everything's going to continue to be fine. So we've learned about how to add images. We're going to learn about links now. Oh, you know what? This is such a good question. Let's go ahead and touch this. I mean, hey, what's the deal here? Why doesn't the image element have a closing sign? And this is because HTML is weird sometimes. Whenever you hear us talk about a self-closing tag, that's going to be a tag that doesn't have to be closed. Images are self-closing. They're just a weird one. It's like irregular verbs when you're learning a language. And they'll say, always conjugate a verb this way, unless it's irregular. And self-closing tags are sort of our irregular verbs of HTML grammar. You don't need to close them because they're weird. Sorry. Is the HTML element still also a tag as well? Yes. So the element, oh, I'm having a philosophical problem with this. Is a self-closing HTML element also a tag? Yes. It is conceptually different for reasons. We'll look it up in a second. So that is the least satisfying answer possible, isn't it? Where you're just like, hey, Jess, is this still a tag? I said, yeah, it feels like a tag. It's just a self-closing one. Monica is asking the best question possible. Are there other elements that don't have a closing tag? Are there other self-closing tags? And we've got somebody else saying, like, come on, help us out here. Are there a list of self-closing tags and lists that need closing? Yes. I am going to send you all to MDN because this is my favorite place to. This MDN is my favorite place to look at HTML tags. So let's go on a little tour together. So MDN is like the Wikipedia of the web, right? Full disclosure, I used to work for Mozilla. So wait, hang on. Hey, we got the thermos. So I am a little bit biased, but even if I hadn't, and even before, I really, really liked MDN for being a good resource. Here we say technologies, and we can come into HTML. And look how beautiful this is. This is going to give us any of the HTML tags we want. Look at this. It's a huge list of all of the different. This is too small. Hang on. We literally have a list of all of the HTML tags and a little trash bin next to the ones we don't use anymore. Wow, you know what? I forgot that background sound used to exist. Oh wow. You used to be able to like turn on background sound when people came to your website. It was terrible. So Mozilla is MDN is my favorite resource for HTML information. It's not the only one out there, but I'm biased and I like it best. If you all find things that you like better, please use those. Some people like W3 Schools, somebody people love W3C, and there's a lot of different things out there. I just find that MDN has really, really complete documentation. I generally trust them really well. Oh, sorry. How about we learn about links? We'll do a couple more of these, and then we're going to. Starry points out that, oh, wow, this old school being able to play background music sounds like a good way to make laggy websites. I don't want to get too off topic, but you used to be able to set a MIDI in the background, which is these little tiny synthetic music, like do 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 do. They were beastly. I cannot overemphasize how rough the 90s were. Someday I'll find y'all the first website I ever made. It was super ugly. But we're jumping all around. We're going to learn about links. And in order to learn about links, we need to sort of back up. You say, Jess, you're always making us back up. We need to sort of back up and talk about the web conceptually. And we're only going to do this briefly. But we've already talked about websites, individual websites, as files. So these are HTML files that serve image files or video files as part of them. So we're thinking of the web as a bunch of files that your browser interprets and your browser sort of sings into a website for you. And I'm all right with that conceptually. But we're going to have to sort of explore this in terms of documents as well. I like to think of an individual web page, a website, as a book or a pamphlet or a movie. Think about it as one publication. If I go to my website, if I go to jessica.tech, which you shouldn't, it's a mess, I like to think of that as one book. There's individual pages, there's individual files. So you go to your main website, which is often the image index.html. And that tells a browser, hey, when you first come to example.com, serve index.html, show this to begin with. But then there might be another page, there might be another chapter in this book within a website called contact.html, or there might be a portfolio.html. So these are individual files, but they're associated with the same domain, the same web page, the same name that links them. But linking is sort of the core concept of the web. And I think this is so exciting and so terrifying. When you have one website, so one collection of different files in the same namespace, you can link to these different files. But you can also link between different web pages. And if this sounds conceptually messy as heck, I respect that. This is conceptually messy as heck. Let's start playing with links and seeing if this concept of multiple files on the same website or multiple websites as different documents starts to feel a little bit more steady as we begin to explore it. And y'all yell at, "Ooh, Ronald, I love this." So Ronald, Ronald's saying, "Well, hey, Jess, I think that a website is like your house, that a URL is like your address. So the URL is something.com or something.net, example.com, jessica.tech. I'm trying to think of other freecodecamp.org. So these namespaces are like your address on the internet, where to find you. And it's a little bit more complicated than that, but we're not going to go into the deeply complex things. But then you get sort of like a file cabinet with your website in it and different files in it. I find this so comforting. This is such a good way to describe this. Yeah. Yeah, your domain name is kind of like the name people know you by. Here, we're going to use an anchor element to start to link. Ooh. We've got a really good example, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But hey, Eggroll has definitely been reading ahead and say, hey, I see that on some websites or some sections of web pages that they set the language to N. What's with this? And really, that's just letting your browser know and letting people visiting your site know to say, hey, when you come to this website, if you're trying to work out what the language is, this EN is saying this website is set to English. Let's go ahead and let's start feeling out what these links look like. So we can use an A element, an anchor element, to link to concept outside your web page. And I love to talk about A as anchor. I love to think about this as a literal anchor. For folks who aren't native speakers of English, anchor can mean to link something, to make something stick. But it's also the name of a big metal weight for boats. So I really like talking about links as anchors, and I encourage you to think of it as the big metal boat weight. Eggroll is asking, hey, if I can set my website's language to English, can I also use other languages? Technically, yes. So you can set your website to whatever you want and then use a different language, but it would be kind of a jerk move. So if you've got a bunch of different languages on your website, you might want to set the language to the majority language, what most of it says. But if you're setting a language, if you say, hey, lang equals n, and then your website's in Spanish, that's kind of a jerk move. Just a little bit of a jerk move. I wouldn't recommend it. That's a better way to say it. Here, ooh, thank you. Ángel is saying anchor in Spanish is, please don't make me mispronounce Spanish, ancala? Oh, wait, is there an anchor emoji? Hey, when I say anchor, I mean that. So we're just going to copy and paste this existing link. And we're going to take it all the way down at the bottom. So outside the main, it probably goes inside the main. We're going to take a look at this. We just want to take a look at the context. So we've got, ooh, oh, wow. The Eggroll is showing us how to write anchor in Chinese. And this is really exciting. Is that that's the radical for iron, isn't it? That's all I know about Chinese. It's so exciting to have such a wide range of folks from different language backgrounds. I'm so sorry that at the moment we're only able to offer this in English, but FreeCodeCamp does offer their curriculum in different languages. So if you say, hey, I'd be more comfortable studying this in Spanish or in Chinese, take a look at the FreeCodeCamp website and see if they have that available for you all. Oh, nice. Sir is suggesting anchor in German is anchor, which, whew, I bet money I'm pronouncing it wrong, but how reassuring. Hold on. You all are being way too interesting and you're sidetracking me. Let's talk anchors. So I'm going to set the opening tag and I'm going to say, here is the anchor. And here we've got the hyperlink, the H, reference. Oh, heck. I should be scrambling. So whenever we would do a link, I'm going to say, oh, heck, highlighting is just such a pain in the butt. Opening tag, A, say, I am getting my anchor. And this hyperlink reference, I like to think of it as the sound you would make if you were trying to throw an anchor. Remember, an anchor is those big, heavy metal things. If I tried to throw it, I'd probably make a whoof sound. And what you're really doing when you're linking to another website is you're taking this anchor and you're throwing it to this other website and leaving a chain between this website and your website. And you're saying, hey, I want anyone who sees this text, I want them to be able to follow the chain of that anchor back to this other website. Does that feel okay? Roland makes such a good point that this doesn't have to be an external website, that you can link to other pages on your website or even to a different section of your own website. And I bet money we're going to get to that in a second. Thank you so much. This is such a helpful preview. So we're going to say, here's an opening tag, an A, this ref of us throwing the anchor in the chain. And then when we throw it, we're going to throw it to this other website here. And we're going to close it after the location. Then everything that happens before the closing anchor tag is what's going to be displayed. And this is often referred to as the anchor text. So here we say, this links to freecodecamp.org. And now we see the text. This links to freecodecamp.org. Yeah. Excitingly, this doesn't have to be text. It's often easiest if it's text, but you can use an image as a link. If we wanted to, we could turn this cute ginger kitten into a link. We could turn a video into a link. We could do some weird stuff. But for now, let's go back and do our homework like it asked us to. We're going to create an A element that links to free cat photo app and has cat photos as its anchor text. But this isn't enough information for me. Where does it go? I think if we come all the way down here, this should let us know a little bit more. This still doesn't tell me where this should sit, this link. So we've got a bunch of different options. Ooh. So Egg Rule here is asking a really good question. How do we represent an anchor in HTML without a descriptive text? Let me go ahead and do this homework really fast. We're actually going to talk about that in a couple lessons. So we're going to have the example of a link that's an image. So do you know what? We're going to break in about 15 minutes. So your own homework, which you're going to do on your own after this, is going to show you how to do this. I was about to cheat and just tell you everything. Here, it's telling us we have to make an anchor element. The anchor element should say, ooh. Sorry to go quiet. Can we skip the linking text or image entirely and maybe make it background only? I don't think you can link through the background image of a website, but I'm reasonably sure you can't use the background image of a website to link. You can. You know what? Tanya, I'm going to be mean and set you this as homework. When you start working through some of this on your own, I'm going to do this myself when I get a bit of time. Experiment, see what you can turn links into. I would love the best thing about experimenting is when you get to break something. You say, "Hey, can I make an image a link? Oh yeah, I can I make a video a link? Oh yeah, I can. Can I make an empty div a link? Hmm." And really start to feel the limitations of what works and what doesn't. So you can tell I used to be a classroom teacher where I was like, okay, let's explore that together. Rubbish. One big question I want to kick to you all is, where should we put this? We don't have any assignments here. And I've got sort of a general idea that I think our link should be part of the main content. Does that feel all right to us? I want to set it, I want to do the opening tag and an anchor link. Yeah, we've got such a good point here. The best way to learn is just mess stuff up. Later on, we'll go ahead and we'll talk about backups. We'll talk about saving. And one thing I really want to talk about with this group is version control, because version control is definitely going to chill you out with experimenting. So far as working here within FreeCodeCamp, if you mess stuff up, you can always say reset all code. And it's just going to give you the start of the lesson. Yeah. Within the FreeCodeCamp tutorial environment, mess stuff up, mess it up all day, mess it up, break it. You cannot break it so bad. You shouldn't be able to break it so badly that it can't be reset. If you manage to break it so badly that it can't be reset, come and get me and I'll send you. No, I'm not going to incentivize breaking the website. Never mind. So I'm going to come in. I think that I want our link to exist within main. I'm going to start our opening tag. An A for anchor. A roof for us throwing that anchor. The HTML reference is equal to freecatphotoapp.com. So we're going to copy this and paste it. You could type it in too if you wanted. It's not going to hurt you. And then we're going to put our closing, we're going to close this tag. So all of this right here is our opening tag for this element. I'm going to go ahead and close our anchor tag here. But it doesn't show anything yet. So we've got this link. It exists, but it's not user visible yet. We need to add the anchor text, and that goes between this opening element and this closing element. And our homework has told us that photos should be hey, and look at it. It shows right up. Everything's fine. I cautiously and comfortably think that if I run all tests, why are you telling me 4%? That's a lie. So we've got about 10 minutes left for the stream. And instead of continuing to look at links, we're going to come back and do more of this next week. If you want to meet with us tomorrow, it's going to be the exact same material. So there's no need to come back. Right? It should be 36%, not 4. Computers, they were a mistake. And we'll be finishing this up next week. One thing I really want to point out is we're not going to cover every single lesson in here. It's really important to do this on your own. And it's really important to go ahead and continue on your own. If it's not me being a bully, and if you get an option, oh, Toxic Mender makes a good point. You know what? Maybe it's because I reset the code. Y'all make some good common sense here. It's probably because I reset the. We all know we're at 36%. We get credit for that. So tomorrow the lesson is going to be the exact same content as today. There's no reason to come to both unless you really, really want to. Everything's fine. Um, in the last couple of minutes we've got, I'd love to answer any questions y'all have. For those of you who aren't yet with us on the bootcamp, you can hop to classcentral.com and sign up. One thing I really want to stress is if you don't want to sign up, there's absolutely no obligation to. So, over at Class Central, we've got a course forum for some additional support, but these streams are always going to be widely available. Everything's chill. But if folks have some questions either about the course or about the boot camp or about HTML, we could take a couple minutes and chill out. Oh, look at you showing off. Mine says 100% because I already did it. You know what? I'm going to make you teach some of these lessons then. Uh, so, this is a really good question about the boot camp. What are the requirements of this week? So, there's no hard and fast requirements. I'm not your boss. I'm not your mama. I can't make you do anything. But I'd love to push you. I'd love to bully you. I'd love to be mean and say, please try and get through at least 50% of the HTML section. That's going to set you up the best for next week. Learning things a little bit each day is a lot better than learning them in big chunks, but I want to make sure that you're doing this in the way that works best for you. Yeah. Oh, cool. Here's a really good question. Can we talk about element and tag again? I would be so happy to talk about element and tag again. So, tags are part of elements, and elements are sort of the whole character on the page. Yeah. So, when we're looking at H2, here's a tag. Here's an opening bracket and a closing bracket, and it's telling us what the tag is. That's the opening tag of the H2 element. Here's the content, which is the part of the H2 element. And here's the closing tag of the H2 element. So the element is made up of tags and content. But to make things worse, not all tags will have closing tags, and those can be elements in their own right. Looking at that, here's the image source. Here's the content. Here's what that's pointing at. Here's the alt tag. So this is a whole image element, but it's also just one tag, just to make this as confusing as possible for you. Hey, so Monica's asking, are the projects I'll do in the last week? So really, this is about what works best for you. There's no hard and fast, you must be finished with everything the last week. We can continue to hang out in the forums. We can continue to hop on live streams while y'all work on your projects. We're not going to kick you out in week 12, but I absolutely recommend go and have a look at those projects now and have a think, oh gosh, what can I do in this first project? What can I do in the second project with what I've learned so far? Yeah. So when you're working on FreeCodeCamp, how do I get back to it? Will your progress be automatic? When you're working on your free code, so log on to FreeCodeCamp yourself, work along yourself, your progress will automatically be saved. I promise. Sashin's asking, can I start learning JavaScript together with us on FreeCodeCamp? Absolutely, babes. Please do. So FreeCodeCamp, the module we're on right now is called, oh, heck, you know what I should show you. Menu, curriculum. We're working at the responsive web design certification. I recommend, and FreeCodeCamp recommends, doing this before moving on to JavaScript. But if you want to preview JavaScript, or if you want to race through this and go on to JavaScript on your own, we're never going to make you wait for us. So if somebody wants to build a website right now, what program should you use and where do you host it? This might be a little bit beyond the scope of what we're doing immediately. I'd go ahead and go on DuckDuckGo or use your favorite search engine to say, hey, how do I build my first website? Or how does web hosting work? That's probably going to steer you a little bit better. We've got a question. How many classes do we have in a week? We're just doing one class per week, like one live stream per week, but we'll run it on 2 separate times. So we're always going to meet on this time on a Monday, but we're also going to meet later in the day on Tuesdays and cover the exact same material. This boot camp goes nice and slow. This is designed for folks who have jobs or folks that have are going to school or folks who have busy lives. It's the 2020s. Everything's hard. If you want to race on ahead, go, go, go. Don't you let us hold you back. Oh gosh. So we've got this is such a good question. So Wednesday, we're going to have a guest lecture about learning how to learn. So we're going to have a computer scientist and a neuroscientist, it's a neuroscientist is the right word. So we're going to have a computer person and a brain person come and both give us a talk about how to structure your learning. Yeah. That's going to be Wednesday. Go ahead and check the bootcamp page. It'll show you the time. When you click on events, it'll show you the time in your local time. Ooh, what is an SSH? SSH is a way to connect to websites that is more secure. So HTTPS. So this is a protocol for connecting to websites that's a little bit more secure than it used to be. We'll go into detail later on. So we've got a bunch of different questions. I'm so sorry that I'm about to have to leave in a second. These are great. Is image used to display a specific image and A used to display a website that contains multiple images? This is a really good question. So image is used to display an image, but you can have multiple image tags on your site. Go ahead and put as many images as you want and as many image elements as you want. Nobody's going to come and stop you. The the anchor tag, is to link to a whole website, to link to another page on your website, or to link on another section of your website. So we're going to be doing some more links and some links with images later on. So I'm going to bully you to go ahead and continue on with this course and see what this feels like. It's gonna give you a little bit more of this. Recommendations to start for personal website projects if we've only ever worked in sandboxes like this. I'd say go ahead and just, it's very easy for me to say just. So find a text editor you like. This could be something like Notepad. This could be something like Sublime Text or Atom, and practice writing HTML just as a file and saving it. And you can go ahead and use your browser. So use Firefox, use Chrome, use Brave, and you can open that file instead of opening a website, instead of typing the URL for a website. Once you save an HTML file from a text browser, you can right click on that and open it using your browser to see what it's going to look like. That's going to be my next step for recommendations. So how do we upload photos from our computer instead of from another website? This is a hosting question, so we're not going to talk about this for a little while, but we've had a bunch of questions about these, and these are really good. How about I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to aim to find a guest speaker to talk to us about hosting. I think that's going to be the most useful next step for a lot of learners. Whew. Can we have two different sheets? So I think this is, can we have two different HTML files saved about the same pages and creation, and despite their differences, both can be ideal. So yes, building a web page, writing HTML, I think is a creative endeavor. So you can have two people build the same web page, and it can be different, and both of them can be just fine. Yeah, I think I'm going to say yes. I'm so sorry, my loves. I'm just about to have to escape. You all are super, super lovely. I'm seeing we've got the bootcamp portal linked up for both you all on YouTube and you all on Twitch. We're gonna absolutely have a second. So I'm so sorry for the guest lecture. We're only able to run that once, but we'll have the video available offline. I promise. We've got so many questions. I'm so. Oh, wait! Before I go, I was just about to say goodbye, and I'm like, wait. I was talking about, hey, if you want to practice writing HTML in a text editor, here's a really what don't use a word processor. So you definitely need something that's not fancy. So something like Notepad or something like Sublime Text or Atom that's specifically made to be a text only editor. If you try and use Microsoft Word, if you try and use Google Docs, it's going to add some extra formatting that will make you very unhappy. Um, I'm so sorry that I'm going to have to run. You all have been absolutely fantastic. I'm going to be in the forums if you need anything at all. And if you ever have any problems with this course that you don't want to address publicly, you can email me at bootcamp@classcentral.com. And I'm going to be so, so happy to see what we can do to help. I'm going to let you go. You all have been absolutely fantastic. If we're going to be running the exact same session tomorrow, so don't worry if you can't make it. But I will chat to many of you very soon. Bye, all.